Vladimir Putin has deployed supersonic nuclear bombers off the coast of northern Britain. Russian President Vladimir Putin deployed his strategic aircraft into the Norwegian Sea for the second time this week, interpreted as a warning to the West. Russia has launched two Tu-160 supersonic nuclear bombers into the Norwegian Sea, north of Britain. Russian President Vladimir Putin used strategic aircraft for the second time this week. Previously, two Tu-95 aircraft flew over the Bering Sea. The warmongers' actions are seen as a warning to the West as Russia prepares to mark the first anniversary of the war in Ukraine on February 24th. 44:44:44:44 Russia also today reported another patrol sighting a Tu-95 strategic bomber pushing Alaska in the Chukchi Sea. The video features an airplane known as the Bears that flew for 7 hours over the Sea of Okhotsk near Japan. Tensions between Russia and Japan have risen again as the territorial dispute over the Kuril Islands has been prolonged. On a previous mission, the plane patrolled Norway and the Barents Sea for 13 hours, including refueling on board, the Russian Ministry of Defense said. Two Tu-160 strategic bombers have completed their planned flight over the neutral waters of the Barents and Norwegian Seas, says the report. As nuclear tensions rise, Norway's intelligence agency says in its annual report that Russia has begun deploying ships with tactical nuclear weapons in the Baltic for the first time in 30 years. The nuclear-powered ships are said to be part of Putin's Northern Fleet. Tu-160, NATO reporting name Blackjack, Soviet supersonic strategic missile carrier with retractable wings. Together with the Tu-95 bombers, these aircraft form the backbone of Russian long-range aviation. The Tu-160M is designed to strike enemy targets in areas difficult to reach by nuclear and conventional weapons. Putin is outraged by the West's supply of weapons to Ukraine. Earlier today, Russia said its forces had broken through two fortified Ukrainian defense lines on the Eastern Front. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Ukrainian troops retreated in disorganized equipment in the face of Russian attack in the Lugansk region, but these claims have not been confirmed. This happened today at a meeting of NATO defense ministers in Brussels. Here, the head of the organization, Jens Stoltenberg, urged Western countries to increase supplies to Ukraine. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has also said that NATO countries must spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense. And UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace once again ruled out sending fighter jets to Ukraine in the short term. Russian officials have warned of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering huge military setbacks during the invasion of Ukraine. But what weapons does Russia have and how much damage can they do? Putin has repeatedly hinted at the use of nuclear weapons if the territorial integrity of our country is threatened. I want to remind you that there are various means of destruction in our country, he said. This is not a bluff. Russian officials have also warned of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive military setbacks during the invasion of Ukraine. And what kind of nuclear weapons does Russia actually have and what damage can they do? I saw Sky News. How many nuclear weapons does Russia have? According to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia's total nuclear warhead inventory is 5,977, the largest in the world. For comparison, the US has 5428, France has 290, and the UK has 225. According to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, Russia's arsenal contains 4,447 warheads, of which 1,588 are deployed in ballistic missile and heavy bomber bases. It states that approximately 977 additional strategic warheads and 1,912 non-strategic warheads are in reserve. However, experts said the exact number of warheads and weapons was unknown due to secrecy related to strategic and security issues. What threat does weapons pose to Ukraine and the world? Can they go to England? Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, can reach and destroy major world cities like London and Washington. ICBMs can reach full speed in about 10 minutes after launch, so a missile launched from Russia would take only 20 minutes to reach Britain. In March, President Putin sounded alarm bells around the world after raising the nuclear deterrent to a high level. Defense expert Sir Richard Barons at the time told Sky News, "Rocket, that means it flies from Russia to America and obviously to Europe. The warhead in the front has a force of 300 to 800 kilotons of TNT. 300 kilotons is enough to destroy Washington, London, and Paris. We need to understand that Ukraine's interests are now global. The rest of the Western Hemisphere is now on the scene with Ukraine, essentially by invoking the specter of a nuclear weapon." He added another piece of equipment. You can fire a smaller weapon, but it will still confuse your target. For example, a 203mm 2S7 cannon has a range of about 37 kilometers and fires a 110 kilograms projectile. Sir Richard said it can also launch a nuclear projectile of about a kiloton. That's thousands of tons of TNT. With a power of 5 to 50 kilotons, it can be used to launch nuclear weapons. So with that range and power, it will be absolutely devastating. Is it possible that Russia's stockpile will change? A modernization program to replace most weapons. The introduction of new types of weapons is also reported. Hans M. Christensen and Matt Korda stated in the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, range. Of the stockpile of warheads, about 1,588 strategic warheads are deployed. About 812 are deployed on land-based ballistic missiles, about 576 on submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and probably 200 on heavy bomber bases. The bulletin also states, dated February 23, that some Russian transport vehicles stationed near Ukraine are considered dual-use, meaning they may be used to fire both conventional and nuclear weapons. What steps must Russia take to launch a nuclear weapon? The President, Minister of Defense or Chief of Staff of a country must obtain permission through the so-called Chaget nuclear briefcase. Russia's nuclear doctrine permits the use of what are known as tactical nuclear weapons, limited-range nuclear explosions, to force back enemy forces in conventional conflict. Strategic nuclear weapons can strike targets much further away, for example, the United States. Tactical nuclear weapons is a term for weapons deployed on battlefields such as Ukraine. What's happening to the number of nuclear weapons on a global scale? Other countries are purchasing or developing new missiles for security reasons and to reduce reliance on other suppliers. Before the 2010s are over, Asia, in particular, will be full of conventional missiles that fly farther faster, hit harder, and are more sophisticated than ever before. China is mass-producing the DF-26, a multipurpose weapon with a range of up to 4,000 kilometers, 2,485 miles. The United States is developing a new weapon against Beijing in the Pacific. Taiwan and Japan are also building missile capabilities as well as defense systems designed to counter missile threats. The Federation of American Scientists says that as of early 2022, 9 countries have about 12,700 warheads. So when President Putin starts talking about the nuclear option, he can mean something like this. Then it can turn into an Iskander missile. It has a range of about 500 kilometers, 310 miles. In its normal form, it fires the missile with a massive 480 kilograms warhead with an accuracy of about 5 meters.